Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a really fascinating story. It's a place where a 16th century tragedy crashes right into 21st century technology. We're going to explore how a computer model didn't just analyze Shakespeare's Hamlet, it actually managed to completely transform a classroom.
So I know what you're probably thinking. A computer model for Shakespeare? Really? I mean, literature is all about human emotion, right? Nuance, poetry, things that feel kind of impossible to just, put a number on. But as we're about to find out, modeling the actual mechanics of a story can unlock a level of understanding that is, well, it's just profound.
Our story kicks off at Desert View High School in Tucson, Arizona, and it starts with a teacher named Pamela Hopkins. Now, she had this huge task ahead of her. How do you make Shakespeare matter to students whose daily lives were often packed with much more immediate, real-world challenges?
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why Shakespeare just wasn't landing with these students. Then, and this is the really cool part, we'll break down the system dynamics model that changed everything. We'll see how the classroom just lit up, look at the pretty dramatic results, and then we'll zoom out and explore what this could all mean for the future of studying literature.
Okay, so let's set the scene. I mean, teaching Shakespeare is tough, period. But the environment at Desert View High, it presented a whole other level of challenges. Look, the students at Desert View were juggling a lot. We're talking about high crime in the community, many students working jobs to help support their families, and really complex situations at home. So when you're dealing with all of that, the dense language and complicated plots of Elizabethan drama can feel, well, super distant, almost irrelevant. So it's not a huge surprise that Shakespeare was just failing to grab their attention. So how do you fix that? How do you bridge that gap? Well, Pamela Hopkins turned to this incredibly powerful tool called system dynamics, using a program called STELLA. And the idea was this. Instead of just reading the play, her students were going to model it. They were literally going to map out the engine of the story itself.
And yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How on earth do you take something so abstract like Hamlet's burning desire for revenge and turn it into a variable a computer can actually understand? Well, the answer is in breaking it down into a few core, simple ideas.
Okay, the first key piece of the puzzle is a stock. The easiest way to think about a stock is like a bathtub. It's just a container that holds something. In our model here, that bathtub is holding Hamlet's motivation to avenge, and that level can rise and fall all throughout the play.
Now, the water level in that tub doesn't change by itself, right? You need flows. These are the faucet and the drain. So a flow like evidence revelation, let's say when the ghost tells Hamlet what happened, that acts like the faucet. It's pouring motivation into the stock, and the level goes up.
But what controls the faucet and the drain? That's the third piece, converters. Think of a converter like opportunity to act. It's a condition. It basically decides if and when Hamlet can pull the drain plug and finally get his revenge. And when you put it all together, it's brilliant. By linking these stocks and flows and converters, you're not just looking at a boring list of plot points anymore. You have created a living, breathing map of cause and effect. You can see how each moment logically builds on the last, pushing the whole system forward. So with this whole framework ready to go, what actually happened when they brought it into the classroom? Let me tell you, the result was nothing short of electric.
The process itself was just so powerful. The teacher laid out the model, and then she handed it over to the students. They got into groups, they broke down each act, and they debated the emotional impact of every single event, giving it a score from 1 to 10. How much does seeing your father's ghost really affect you? What about when Claudius totally freaks out during the play? The students had to decide.
The teacher, Pamela Hopkins, she just summed it up perfectly. She said that using these numbers, it gave the students a sense of power. It turned thin air into solid ground. All these abstract ideas about motivation, suddenly they were concrete. They weren't just passively listening to a story anymore. They were building its emotional engine.
And they saw the results immediately. As they ran this simulation, they watched the graph spike at the exact moments they had identified as being important. They could literally see the climax on a chart as Hamlet's motivation went through the roof, connecting the data right back to the drama.
They watched as the entire tragedy played out, all driven by the numbers they had put in. They saw Hamlet's motivation stock just fill and fill and fill until finally, damn, all the conditions were right and Claudius's life stock drained completely to zero. They had built the logic that led straight to the play's famous, tragic ending.
And maybe this is the most amazing part.
It's captured in this one quote from a student, Pete Trejo, who is described as being too cool to participate before all this. He actually said, "Let's try this again Monday with Laertes as our subject." I mean, think about that. A student who is totally checked out is now asking for more homework. He didn't just get Hamlet. He wanted to use this new tool to figure out another character. The apathy, it was just gone.
And this transformation, it wasn't just a feeling. It showed up big time in the gradebook. The hard data was there to prove it.
Just look at these numbers for a second. In one class, the number of students who were passing more than tripled. It went from just 3 kids to 10. One student even got 100% mastery. I mean, this isn't a tiny improvement. It's a massive shift in understanding and success.
And you saw the impact across the board. The class average for the whole Hamlet unit jumped by over 10%. So the data absolutely proves what the stories were suggesting. This method just plain worked. It turned disengagement into deep, real, measurable understanding.
So what does this all mean? Well, this incredible experiment wasn't just about one play or one classroom. It really cracked open a whole new way of looking at literature and maybe the humanities in general.
The possibilities here are just endless. You could model ambition in Macbeth. You could simulate the push and pull of fate versus choice in Romeo and Juliet. You could even run simulations to see what might happen if you dropped a totally new character into an old story. It's a powerful lens for getting at the hidden mechanics of basically any story.
And that really leaves us with a final big thought. We just saw how system dynamics gave these students a brand new kind of power to understand a classic work of art. So if this tool can make the motivations of a 400-year-old Danish prince feel immediate and logical, what other complex systems in stories, in history, or even in our own lives are just waiting for us to map them out?